So that's what that looks like.
Close enough.
So let's go ahead and pin the page down. Let's go ahead and crease the paper. Let's go ahead and get our rough sketch in. And today we're working on the truth-telling teeth. Now let's go ahead and replace this real quick. It's been sitting there for a few days so it dried out, but it's just gouache paint and it's pretty easy to clean up. So let's go ahead and start weathering the page. So my weathering process is kind of a little too crazy and I kind of want to start toning that back a little bit. So for this page, I'm actually going to do a little bit less weathering on it and keep it a little more subtle.
Very nice.
And I do want to bring this back just because it's been a while since I've done it, where I do a white base coat before adding any gouache paint on top. Now the reason I'm doing it again is because I need to keep the journal very consistent, and I did do this on previous pages, so this does need to reoccur at least a few more times throughout the journal. Now referring back to my reference, the drawing doesn't have too much shading on it, so I want to keep the gouache really light here. But again, I do want to keep it consistent with the other drawings, so I am going to add extra highlights that isn't present in the original. Here I'm just adding a couple sliders around the text, just to mucky up the page a little bit. And I'm thinking, because this seems like a more calm page, that a brush pen is more appropriate here. Now, I have been doing this throughout the whole journal, so I do want to come back in with my regular pen and add a couple ink drips off the text. And that's just a personal decision that I've been doing throughout the journal. Here I'm adding extra ink splatters just to make it look like some of the ink got messed up. And then I've been having really good success with this technique right here, where I'm using a red Sharpie and then coming back over it with some gouache paint, opposed to using a regular ink pen and then adding water to have it smear. Because that technique, although it looks a little bit better in my opinion, it does mess up the previous page and can very possibly bleed onto other pages depending on how much water I use. So moving forward, this is going to be my preferred technique for any of that red ink. For all the cross hatching, I'm thinking about using probably anywhere from a 3 to a 4 pen, just so I can keep that cross hatching really thin. And then for that bottom part of the jaw, I'm going to come back in with a 0.8 pen, just because the reference looks like it's a little bit thicker and messier in that area. For those bottom teeth, I'm going to use a 0.5 pen, and I'm just going to come back in with a regular pen just to do that question mark. And then right here, I'm just filling out the page, and it's kind of self-explanatory. It's the truth-telling teeth. It's just basically talking about how Ford found these teeth inside the forest, that he's not entirely sure who made them, but he has a few choice people that he believes that should be using them. And then to finish off the page, I'm going to add a little weathering to the bottom of the page, just because it's looking a little barren down there. But again, I don't want to do anything too crazy, so I'm going to keep it fairly light. And then that pretty much wraps up the page. It's a pretty easy page, honestly, and I debated doing the page next to it with this one, but the other one's going to be a little more complex. Nothing too crazy, but it's a lot more going on.
You think it's too soon to start a new side project? I don't know. Probably.